Good day and gratitude, family. This is Face the Nation with Bolden Unchained, and we're back again with another reading. And we are reading from our book of Black Heroes from A to Z. And yes, I'm Face the Nation, and I'm with Bolden Unchained, and we are here to assist Black media and Black America with the uncovering and the confronting of the many agendas, the many events and products, and the many operations and sabotages against Black America. You know, and these are my views, not the views of the authors of any books that we will read. We will be reading books as is written by the author and the editors. However, the views expressed on this channel are only mine and only mine. I do speak on behalf of Black America, but I don't speak what Black America is wants personally for them. We each have our own free will and free thoughts. But yes, I am in support of Black America. I support Black America. At the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, first and final, it's Black America for me. There's no harm for other people on this channel. We do not advocate violence or payback or however you may, classify. Oh, we do support reparations. We do support returning the land to its rightful owners. However, we are on Bolden Unchained. We are content to let Mother Nature, to let Mother Gaia, cosmic energy, mete out the karma that is due. So, and yeah, I'll be working on that myself, but yeah, we're back. It's a learning process, and it is beautiful. It's wonderful to be on this side of justice. For me, it's the ultimate check, the ultimate wealth. As a people, we look for validation and acceptance, and we want to be like everyone else, and we're not like anyone else. Everyone else wants to be like us. However, we don't see our worth. But if you only knew the wealth that you walk around with, that is inside of you, that cosmic energy is just vibrating, just humming for you, Black America. Nothing could hold back, the power being unleashed to free us all, to liberate our people. We just don't know those things. And, for me, just beginning, there are many others of our critical thinkers, our scientists, and our teachers and mentors. We have so much intelligence within our people, within our culture. And mainstream media is not going to make it visible to us, Black America. This is the point, the time where you have to seek out Black media. That's it, and that's all. That alone will tell you whose side you stand on. If you don't have in the words of Farrakhan, if you don't have the testicular fortitude, men, my brothers and my sisters, to get into Black knowledge, to follow Black media, to at least take some type of interest, even if it's a little mustard seed. If none of that resonates with you, family, you definitely need to look within. You need to seek within, because that's where our liberation lies, not without. All of this out here, ain't none of it for us, baby. Ain't none of this out here for us. But everything within, that's for us. That's resonating. So yeah. But today we're going to start with Ulysses K. I wanted to go back to James Weldon Johnson because he wrote our freedom song, our national theme, Lift Every Voice and Sing. His brother wrote the melody, the music to the song. But I couldn't find my page with the lyrics on it and stuff. I'd just like to have it here. But we're going to go ahead and start with Ulysses K. And when there's more people here other than myself and the ancestors, then, we may go back through this book here. However, I did find some more. I did find some more African American inventors and scientists. Oh, you can't see that because I got the background on. But it's just a workbook of pages that were copied that I have for the grandchildren in their little thing over there. So Ulysses K. And he was born in 1917 in Tucson, Arizona. Let me see, did I have anything? Yes. A classical giant. Yeah, that's him. Ulysses K. right there. A classical giant. Look at her. Kind of favorite niecey husband. Look. My niece. Let me take this off just momentarily so y'all can see it. Yeah. This is a picture of him right here. Ulysses K., a classical giant. See, we have so many giants among us, heroes. Some people believe that classical music was too difficult for Black people to master. Men like William Grant Still, Dean Dixon, and Ulysses K. proved them wrong. These talented Black men became outstanding composers and conductors. Ulysses K. decided to make music his career when he was young. He had always loved music, but he knew he had to study hard if he wanted to succeed. He attended the Eastman School of Music, the Berkshire Music Center, and Yale University. Wow! He learned to compose. After serving in the United States Navy during World War II, Ulysses quickly became the most important Black composer of classical music in the United States. Ooh, let's read that again. And he went to the Navy. After serving in the United States Navy during World War II, Ulysses quickly became the most important Black composer of classical music in the United States. He received numerous awards, including the Gershwin Memorial Prize, and that's Gershwin, Gershwin Memorial Prize, a Broadcast Music Incorporated award, and an American Broadcasting Company Prize. Oboe Concerto, Oboe, Concerto, 1940. A Short Overture, 1947. And The Juggler of Our Lady, 1962. My mom was 3 years old then. 2 years old. Are three of his most popular works. And maybe we can find some of those. Ulysses K. will be remembered not only as a great composer, but also as a Black pioneer in classical music. I'm not really familiar with classical music now. He probably the only one I've ever heard of with classical music. The Coltrane's, was that classical? I don't think that was classical music. Like Alice Coltrane, John Coltrane. Someone shared some of their music a few months ago, and I was listening to some of it, but I don't know if that was classical or not. But let's get to our brother Ulysses and see. I better leave that off because we are going to be watching others. Here we go. That was deep, wasn't it? Let's see here.
Ulysses Simpson Kay Jr. was an African-American composer, conductor, and professor. He was born on January 7th of 1917 in Tucson, Arizona. His father, Ulysses Simpson Kay Sr., had been a Texas cowboy and barber. His mother, Elizabeth Kay, had come from Louisiana. His parents both enjoyed making music at home and church. His stepbrother played the violin and saxophone, and his stepsister was a piano student. When he was 6, his uncle, King Oliver, urged him to study piano, so he began studying with William A. Ferguson. At the age of 10, Ulysses began studying the violin, and when he was 12, the alto saxophone.
Ooh.
He soon organized a quintet with friends who played clarinet, trumpet, violin, and drums, for which ensemble he began composing and arranging. In school, he sang in the Glee Club and played in the marching and jazz bands.
Most people have no clue that in 2024, the best way to make money with Amazon is not with physical products. It's Amazon.
Ulysses was encouraged to follow his musical interests by William Grant Still, whom he met in 1936 while completing his undergraduate studies at the University of Arizona. He had entered the school as a liberal arts major, but changed to music education before earning his bachelor's of music degree in 1938. He encountered the music of Bela Bartok through his piano studies and other contemporary music in his studies in theory. Ulysses entered the Eastman School of Music on a scholarship in 1938 and studied with Bernard Rogers and Howard Hanson, securing his Master's of Music degree in 1940. Friendships from those Eastman days were formed with voice students like Irma Allen, Raymond Morris, Kenneth Spencer, and William Warfield, and composers Mark Fax and Thomas Kerr. During these days, he also came to know Jimmy Rushing and the members of the Count Basie Band. At the Berkshire Festival in 1941 on scholarship, he won the attention of Paul Hindemith and continued working with him at Yale University for the next school year. With the outbreak of World War II, Kay enlisted in the Navy in 1942 and was stationed with the band in Rhode Island, in which he played alto saxophone, flute, piccolo, and piano, and he was also active in composing and arranging. He was granted an honorable discharge in 1946. Ulysses Kay studied at Columbia University in 1947 and spent summers at the Yaddo Festival in Saratoga Springs, New York. Ulysses Kay moved to Rome in 1949, armed with several grants, including the Julius Rosenwald Fellowship, the National Institute of Arts and Letters, the Prix de Rome, a Fulbright Scholarship, and the Gershwin Memorial Award for his piece titled A Short Overture. In 1949, Ulysses married Barbara Harrison, who joined him in his residence in Italy, where she taught music at the Anglo-American Overseas School. Their daughter, Virginia, was born in Rome in 1951. Their second child was Melinda, born in 1957, followed by Hillary in 1959. Ulysses returned to the United States in 1953 and was named advisor for the Broadcast Music Incorporated. In the summer of 1965, he was a visiting professor at Boston University and later was named Distinguished Professor of Music in 1972 at the Herbert H. Lehman College of the City University of New York. Over his lifetime, Ulysses Kay composed approximately 140 musical compositions for orchestra, chorus, chamber ensemble, piano, voice, organ, and band. He also wrote 5 operas as well as scores for film and television. Kay's works appear in numerous published editions and on approximately 21 recordings. His early period from 1939 to 1946 included works such as the ballet Dans Kalinda and the 4 pieces for male chorus. As a young composer, Kay experienced his first major success in Of the New Horizons Overture, a piece premiered by the New York Philharmonic and awarded an American Broadcast Company prize. Other works from this period include the Brief Elegy for Oboe and String Orchestra, the 4 Inventions for Piano, and a short overture. Kay's middle period, from 1947 to 65, begins with the Suite for Strings, which was premiered by the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra. The composer's late period, from 1966 to 95, consisted of 3 operas. On May 20th of 1995, Ulysses Simpson Kay passed away in Englewood, New Jersey. At the time of his death, in May of 1995, Kay was at work on a commission for the New York Philharmonic.
Wow, that was awesome. We learned a little bit about Ulysses. Ulysses K. Oh, you know what, everyone? Continue on with that then. Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, Ulysses K, a classical giant. I don't think I ever knew any classical music. Yeah, I don't think I ever knew any classical music. So I did note some of these that we perhaps in the future we will listen to some of them. I was actually seeing if I have anything else on him that we probably could have watched, while we're reading through our book of Black Heroes. Oh, was that one there? Oh, here's one. Oh, I think we watched that one. Yeah, because it was only like a minute long. Let's watch this one here by K Ulysses. And it's a new song. I guess that's the name of it. It's only a few minutes long, maybe 2.5 minutes long. Let's see what his music is like. Oh, they are that's the wrong one. I think they are performing. Yeah, his composition. They are performing it. So we will continue. Y'all think we could perform this music? Who's got the voice? Mrs. K. And that was Ulysses K. Oh, wow. He had some beautiful music. But that last video, they were performing his music. I thought that it would be, us seeing a recording of him performing his composition. But that was them performing his music and stuff. And it was beautiful. It's different for me. I couldn't make out any words. But what's this? Oh, that's them again. But I wanted us to, since it started, I wanted us to go ahead and finish it. Next, we will be reading about Martin Luther King Jr. from 1929 to 1968. And he was born in Atlanta, Georgia. This is Martin Luther King here. I think we'll take that off. This is Martin Luther King here. Everybody knows Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. Drum major for justice. It was 1955. A group of Black people gathered in a local church in Montgomery, Alabama. Many were angry because Rosa Parks had been arrested for refusing to give up her bus seat to a white man. They wanted to do something about the discrimination they had faced in Montgomery. A young minister was chosen as their leader. His name was Martin Luther King Jr. Martin was the son of a minister, so many people assumed he would become a minister too. Young Martin was an excellent student. He studied hard, but he enjoyed it because he loved to learn. In 1948, Martin graduated from Morehouse College. He was only 19. 3 years later, he received a Bachelor of Divinity degree from Crozer Theological Seminary. That's Crozer, Theological, Theological, Seminary, Seminary. Boston University awarded him a doctorate degree in 1955. Martin was 25 years old when he was chosen to become pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery. He quickly impressed church members with his speaking and organizing abilities. His stern sermons drew people from all over the city. Many of the people assembled knew this was the man to lead them. The bus boycott that Martin led ended segregated seating on Montgomery public buses. But he did not stop there. Martin headed a long struggle for equal justice in America. He helped win many rights that all Americans now enjoy. Just 30 years ago, in many American cities, Black people could not vote. They could not drink from the same water fountain or use the same restroom as white people. Black children could not even go to the same schools that white kids attended. Martin helped to end these injustices. It wasn't easy. Thousands of people went to jail. Many were beaten and killed. But Martin didn't believe in violence. He used peaceful methods of protest, such as sit-ins, marches, and boycotts. In 1963, he led the historic March on Washington, where he gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. A year later, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And in 1986, a national holiday was declared to honor this great American. The people assembled in 1955 couldn't have known how great Martin would become. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee on April 4th, 1968 by James Earl Ray. He was only 39 years old, but he did as much as anyone could to secure equality and justice for all Americans. That's the picture of Martin right there. And then this right here is his historic speech. Yep. And do I have a video of Martin? I do believe we do. Let's look and see. Let's just go right on over here and see. Oh. Oh, it's loading. Yeah, it's loading. It's loading, but we'll wait. We'll give it a few seconds here. No, that's not supposed to. It's loading again. Hold on. Okay.
To what you said on paper. If I lived in China or even Russia or any totalitarian country, maybe I could understand some of these illegal injunctions. Maybe I could understand the denial of certain basic First Amendment privileges because they haven't committed themselves to that over there. But somewhere I read of the freedom of assembly. Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech. Somewhere I read of the freedom of press. Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right. And so just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Yes. And that was Martin. See, we've always fought back. Yeah, we've always fought back.
This is a CBS News.
Mainstream media makes it seem like we don't, but we've always fought back.
Dan Rather reporting for CBS News from the top. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was shot to death by an assassin late today as he stood on a balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. King had planned to lead another civil rights march in Memphis next Monday. We got the latest on this.
Well, that right there has very low volume. I can't even make it out what they're saying there.
Introducing Face Stickers by Sticker Mule. To
Video.
order, simply upload a picture of any face.
There we go.
Within a few hours, we'll send you an online proof.
That's looking good.
We
Hold on. Now this video here is another video of Martin Luther King, and it's 43 minutes long. So you can listen in the background or go do something else you would like to do. But since it has started, we are going to watch it. I'm not sure if we'll finish this entire book here, but we will make some progress in it. And we just trying to give due credit to our heroes and sheroes that we come across in our readings, in our texts, you know, in our vaults. And, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a longer video, biography, or documentary. It's all worthy to be, you know, to be learned by us. So we're not gonna, you know, sometimes I will say it's too long for us to watch, you know. But right now it's earlier in the day. I have nothing more important to do, you know, and I do want to make some progress on our reading so that we can, because we're reading 2 books at one time. You know, we will be reading several books simultaneously, different times of the day. But at midnight, we're reading Racial Violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940. And during the daytime, hopefully at 12 noon, but I didn't make it at 12 noon. That's when we commence to reading the Book of Heroes. So, you know, as we progress and grow, we will have multiple projects that's going on, you know. And however your schedule is between work, family, church, recreational activities, then you can find a time that's suitable for you. And let us know at Bolden Unchained, and that way we can find one of our times that's suitable so that we can join you with your journey as well. So let's get back to this right here. And yeah, and I do want to stress, if you can hear me, that it is very wise to get you 2 monitors. It's okay. It's very wonderful to have 2 monitors. That way you won't have all of this chaos like I'm dealing with. But we learn trial by error. So, just do it. And, you can fix the small things in due time. So, yeah, like I said, this here is 43 minutes long. I'm going to put it on. And we're going to watch Martin a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, friends
This was his
and
last
brothers
speech,
in
I
this
believe.
first gathering of the National Conference on New Politics, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, and this wasn't his last speech. This was his speech, The Three Evils of Society. And I wanted to come back and say that, no, I didn't play the I Have a Dream speech. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, because that is the speech that the world at large, white America, black America, the world at large, most societies are familiar with and recognize Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, where everyone's holding hands and in love and stuff. However, we need to see the other part, us especially. We need to see and know the other parts of Martin, where he was cautioning his people. He was cautioning us to the mistakes that he made. And he's just a man. But he was cautioning us that he had led us in a burning building, in a burning house, that our enemies are numerous. And I think those are worthy for us to pay attention to.
Can you hear me in the back? I don't know if the Klan is in here tonight or not, with all the trouble we're having with these microphones.
Always in the back.
And seldom, if ever, we're still working with it. As I was about to say, seldom, if ever, has such a diverse and truly ecumenical gathering convened under the aegis of politics in our nation. And I want to commend the leadership of the National Conference on New Politics for all of the great work that they have done in making this significant convention possible. Indeed, by our very nature, we affirm that something new is taking place on the American political horizon. We have come here from the dusty plantations of the Deep South and the depressing ghettos of the North. We have come from the great universities and the flourishing suburbs. We have come from Appalachian poverty and from conscience-stricken wealth. But we have come. And we have come here because we shared a common concern for the moral health of our nation. We have come because our eyes have seen through the superficial glory and glitter of our society and observed the coming of judgment. Like the prophet of old, we have read the handwriting on the wall. We have seen our nation weighed in the balance of history and found wanting. We have come because we see this as a dark hour in the affairs of men. For most of us, this is a new mood. We are traditionally the idealists. We are the marchers from Mississippi and Selma and Washington, who staked our lives on the American dream during the first half of this decade. Yeah. Many assembled here campaigned decidiously for Lyndon Johnson in 1964
the American dream,
because we could not stand idly by and watch our nation contaminated by the 18th century policies of Goldwaterism. We were the hardcore activists who were willing to believe that Southerners could be reconstructed in the constitutional image. We were the dreamers of a dream, that dark yesterdays of man's inhumanity to man would soon be transformed into bright tomorrows of justice. Now it is hard to escape the disillusionment of betrayal. Our hopes have been blasted and our dreams have been shattered. The promise of a great society was shipwrecked off the coast of Asia on the dreadful peninsula of Vietnam. The poor black and white, are still perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. What happens to a dream deferred? It leads to bewildering frustration and corroding bitterness. I came to see this in a personal experience here in Chicago last summer. And all the speaking that I have done in the United States before varied audiences, including some hostile whites, the only time that I have ever been booed was one night in our regular weekly mass meeting by some angry young men of our movement. I went home that night with an ugly feeling. Selfishly, I thought of my sufferings and sacrifices over the last 12 years. Why would they boo one so close to them? But as I lay awake thinking, I finally came to myself, and I could not for the life of me have less than patience and understanding for those young men. For 12 years, I and others like me had held out radiant promises of progress. I had preached to them about my dream. I had lectured to them about the not too distant day when they would have freedom, all here now. I had urged them to have faith in America and in white society. Their hopes had soared. They were now booing me because they felt that we were unable to deliver on our promises. They were booing because we had urged them to have faith in people who had too often proved to be unfaithful. They were now hostile because they were watching the dream that they had so readily accepted turn into a frustrating nightmare. This situation is all the more ominous in view of the rising expectations of men the world over. The deep rumblings that we hear today, the rumbling of discontent, is the thunder of disinherited masses rising from dungeons of oppression to the bright hills of freedom. All over the world, like a fever, freedom is spreading in the widest liberation movement in history. The great masses of people are determined to end the exploitation of their races and lands. And in one majestic chorus, they are singing in the words of our freedom song, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn us around." And so the collision course is set. The people cry for freedom, and the Congress attempts to legislate repression. Millions, yes, billions, are appropriated for mass murder, but the most meager pittance of foreign aid for international development is crushed in the surge of reaction. Unemployment rages at a major depression level in the black ghettos, but the bipartisan response is an anti-riot bill rather than a serious poverty program. modest proposals for model cities, rent supplement, and rat control, pitiful as they were to begin with, get caught in the maze of congressional inaction. And I submit to you tonight that a Congress that proves to be more anti-Negro than anti-rat needs to be dismissed. It seems that our legislative assemblies have adopted Nero as their patron saint and are bent on fiddling while our cities burn. Even when the people persist and in the face of great obstacles develop indigenous leadership and self-help approaches to their problems, and finally tread the forest of bureaucracy to obtain existing government funds, the corrupt political order seeks to crush even this beginning of hope. The case of CDGM in Mississippi is the most publicized example, but it is a story repeated many times across our nation. Our own experience here in Chicago is especially painfully present. After an enthusiastic approval by HEW's Department of Adult Education, SCLC began an adult literacy project to aid 1,000 young men and women who have been pushed out of overcrowded ghetto schools in obtaining basically literacy skills prerequisite to receiving jobs. We had an agreement with A&P stores for 750 jobs through SCLC's job program, Operation Breadbasket, and had recruited over 500 pupils the first week. At that point, Congressman Kuczynski and the Daily Machine intervened and demanded that Washington cut off our funds or channel them through the machine-controlled poverty program in Chicago. Now we have no problem with administrative supervision, but we do have a desire to be independent of machine control and the Democratic Party patronage network. For this desire for a politically independent approach to the needs of our brothers, our funds are being stopped as of September 15th, and a very meaningful program discontinued. Yes, the hour is dark. Evil comes forth in the guise of good. It is a time of double talk when men in high places have a high blood pressure of deceptive rhetoric and an anemia of concrete performance. We cry out against welfare handouts to the poor, but generously approve an oil depletion allowance to make the rich richer. 6 Mississippi plantations receive more than $1 million a year, not to plant cotton, but no provision is made to feed the tenant farmer who is put out of work by the government subsidy. The crowning achievement in hypocrisy must go to those staunch Republicans and Democrats of the Midwest and West who were given land by our government when they came here as immigrants from Europe. They were given education through the land grant colleges. They were provided with agricultural agents to keep them abreast of farming trends. They were granted low interest loans to aid in the mechanization of their farms. And now that they have succeeded in becoming successful, they are paid not to farm. And these are the same people who now say to black people whose ancestors were brought to this country in chains and who were emancipated in 1863 without being given land to cultivate or bread to eat, that they must pull themselves up by their own bootstraps. What they truly advocate is socialism for the rich and capitalism for the poor. I wish that I could say that this is just a passing phase in the cycle of our nation's life. Certainly times of war, times of reaction throughout the society. But I suspect that we are now experiencing the coming to the surface of a triple-pronged sickness that has been lurking within our body politic from its very beginning. That is the sickness of racism, excessive materialism, and militarism. Not only is this our nation's dilemma, it is the plague of Western civilization. As early as 1906, W.E.B. Du Bois prophesied that the problem of the 20th century will be the problem of the color line. Now, as we stand 2/3 into this crucial period of history, we know full well that racism is still that hound of hell which dogs the tracks of our civilization. Ever since the birth of our nation, white America has had a schizophrenic personality on the question of race. She has been torn between selves, a self in which she proudly professed the great principles of democracy, and a self in which she madly practiced the antithesis of democracy. This tragic duality has produced a strange indecisiveness and ambivalence toward the Negro, causing America to take a step backward simultaneously with every step forward on the question of racial justice. To be at once attracted to the Negro and repelled by him, to love and to hate him. And there has never been a solid, unified, and determined thrust to make justice a reality for Afro-Americans.
Never.
A step backward has a new name today. It is called the white backlash. But the white backlash is nothing new. It is the surfacing of old prejudices, hostilities, and ambivalences that have always been there. It was caused neither by the cry of black power, nor by the unfortunate recent wave of riots in our cities. The white backlash of today is rooted in the same problem that has characterized America ever since the black man landed in chains on the shores of this nation. This does not imply that all white Americans are racist. Far from it. Many white people have, through a deep moral compulsion, fought long and hard for racial justice. Nor does it mean that America has made no progress in her attempt to cure the body politic of the disease of racism, or that the dogma of racism has not been considerably modified in recent years. However, for the good of America, it is necessary to refute the idea that the dominant ideology in our country, even today, is freedom and equality, while racism is just an occasional departure from the norm on the part of a few bigoted extremists. Racism can well be that corrosive evil that will bring down the curtain on Western civilization. Arnold Toynbee has said that some 26 civilizations have risen upon the face of the earth. Almost all of them have descended into the junk heaps of destruction. The decline and fall of these civilizations, according to Toynbee, was not caused by external invasions, but by internal decay. They failed to respond creatively to the challenges impinging upon them. If America does not respond creatively to the challenge to banish racism, some future historian will have to say that a great civilization died because it lacked the soul and commitment to make justice a reality for all men. The second aspect of our afflicted society is extreme materialism. An Asian writer has portrayed our dilemma in candid terms. He says, "You call your 1,000 material devices labor-saving machinery, yet you are forever busy. With the multiplying of your machinery, you grow increasingly fatigued, anxious, nervous, dissatisfied. Whatever you have, you want more. And wherever you are, you want to go somewhere else. Your devices are neither time-saving nor soul-saving machinery. There are so many sharp spurs which urge you on to invent more machinery and to do more business. This tells us something about our civilization that cannot be cast aside as a prejudiced charge by an Eastern thinker who is jealous of Western prosperity. We cannot escape the indictment. This does not mean that we must turn back the clock of scientific progress. No one can overlook the wonders that science has wrought for our lives. The automobile will not abdicate in favor of the horse and buggy, of the train in favor of the stagecoach, of the tractor in favor of the hand plow, of the scientific method in favor of ignorance and superstition. But our moral lag must be redeemed. When scientific power outruns moral power, we end up with guided missiles and misguided men. When we foolishly maximize the minimum and minimize the maximum, we sign the warrant for our own day of doom. It is this moral lag in our thing-oriented society that blinds us to the human realities around us and encourages us in the greed and exploitation which create the sector of poverty in the midst of wealth. Again, we have deluded ourselves into believing the myth that capitalism grew and prospered out of the Protestant ethic of hard work and sacrifice. The fact is that capitalism was built on the exploitation and suffering of black slaves. And continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both black and white, both here and abroad. If Negroes and poor whites do not participate in the free flow of wealth within our economy, they will forever be poor, giving their energy, their talents, and their limited funds to the consumer market, but reaping few benefits and services in return. The way to end poverty is to end the exploitation of the poor, ensure them a fair share of the government services and the nation's resources. I proposed recently that a national agency be established to provide employment for everyone needing it. Nothing is more socially inexcusable than unemployment in this age. In the 30s, when the nation was bankrupt, it instituted such an agency, the WPA. In the present conditions of a nation glutted with resources, it is barbarous to condemn people desiring work to soul-sapping inactivity and poverty. And I am convinced that even this one massive act of concern would do more than all the state police and armies of the nation to quell riots and still hatreds. The tragedy is that our materialistic culture does not possess the statesmanship necessary to do it. Victor Hugo could have been thinking of 20th century America when he wrote, "There's always more misery among the lower classes than there is humanity in the higher classes." The time has come for America to face the inevitable choice between materialism and humanism. We must devote at least as much to our children's education and the health of the poor as we do to the care of our automobiles and the building of beautiful, impressive hotels. We must also realize that the problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power. We must further recognize that the ghetto is a domestic colony. Black people must develop programs that will aid in the transfer of power and wealth into the hands of residents of the ghetto so that they may in reality control their own destinies. This is the meaning of new politics. People of goodwill in the larger community must support the black man in this effort. The final phase of our national sickness is the disease of militarism. Nothing more clearly demonstrates our nation's abuse of military power than our tragic adventure in Vietnam. This war has played havoc with the destiny of the entire world. It has torn up the Geneva Agreement. It has seriously impaired the United Nations. It has exacerbated the hatred between continents and, worse still, between races. It has frustrated our development of at home, telling our own underprivileged citizens that we place insatiable military demands above their most critical needs. It has greatly contributed to the forces of reaction in America and strengthened the military-industrial complex. And it has practically destroyed Vietnam and left thousands of American and Vietnamese youth maimed and mutilated, and expose the whole world to the risk of nuclear warfare. Above all, the war in Vietnam has revealed what Senator Fulbright calls our nation's arrogance of power. We are arrogant in professing to be concerned about the freedom of foreign nations while not setting our own house in order. Many of our senators and congressmen vote joyously to appropriate billions of dollars for the war in Vietnam. And many of these same senators and congressmen vote loudly against a fair housing bill to make it possible for a Negro veteran of Vietnam to purchase a decent home. We arm Negro soldiers to kill on foreign battlefields, but offer little protection for their relatives from beatings and killings in our own South. We are willing to make the Negro 100% of a citizen in warfare, but reduce him to 50% of a citizen on American soil. No war in our nation's history has ever been so violative of our conscience, our national interests, and so destructive of our moral standing before the world. No enemy has ever been able to cause such damage to us as we inflict upon ourselves. The inexorable decay of our urban centers has flared into terrifying domestic conflict as the pursuit of foreign war absorbs our wealth and energy. Squalor and poverty scar our cities as our military might destroys cities in a far-off land to support oligarchy to intervene in domestic conflict. The president who cherishes consensus for peace has intensified the war. In answer to a cry to stop the war, it has brought tauntingly to 1 minute's flying time from China, to a moment before the midnight of world conflagration. We are offered a tax for war instead of a plan for peace. Men of reason should no longer debate the merits of war or means of financing war. They should end the war and restore sanity and humanity to American policy. And if the will of the people continues to be unheeded, all men of goodwill must create a situation in which the 1967-68 elections are made a referendum on the war. The American people must have an opportunity to vote into oblivion those who cannot detach themselves from militarism, and those who lead us
Building your online business?
Oh, wow. I cut the whole video off for real. Oh, but we will continue here. We have next. Yeah, I'm going to get us 2 monitors. I'm going to get 2 monitors. Next, we have Edmonia Lewis. And she was born in 1845 to 1890. And she was born in Albany, New York. Albany, New York. Oh, and Edmonia was she was a world-class sculptor. She sculpted in stone. Oh, it was the most beautiful work. This right here says she made stone talk. And this is a picture. What? This is a picture Money. You see her there? Mm-hmm. If I hadn't cut off that YouTube, we could have watched a couple of videos of her. And we will. When we watch the videos, we'll just go A through B through C through D. And we won't even use the book. We'll just watch them in order. Edmonia Lewis was such a talented sculptor. She seemed to make stones talk. Her sculptures tell a story. One of her most famous, Forever Free, is a study of a freed man getting freedom. One of his hands is clenched in a fist. The other protects his wife. Many people believe that this sculpture captures the two strong feelings that many Black people felt when they were declared free: joy in their freedom and fear that it would be taken away. Edmonia also created busts of famous people who fought to end slavery. Her busts of John Brown, Charles Sumner, and William Story truly captured the spirit and determination that made these men strong fighters for justice. Edmonia's father was a Black American and her mother was a Native American. She was one of the first women to attend Oberlin College. That's Oberlin, Oberlin College. After leaving Oberlin, Edmonia moved to Boston and further developed her artistic talent. Later, she went to Rome, Italy, where she set up a studio. Edmonia was also a fighter for freedom. She was involved in the Underground Railroad that made it possible for slaves to escape to the north. She also helped organize one of the first Black regiments to fight in the Civil War. Edmonia was one of the first Black Americans to be recognized as a great artist. And there's some wonderful, I have found a couple of videos of her. They were wonderful. And then we have Alan Locke from 1886 to 1954. And he was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he's known here as a Black scholar. Look at Alan. What? Whoa, went too far. That's Alan Locke. A Black scholar. It must be increasingly recognized that the Negro has already made very substantial contributions, not only in his folk art and music especially, which has already found appreciation, but in larger, though humbler and less acknowledged ways. And that's from the New Negro. Allen enjoyed helping people. It made him feel good to help others succeed. He especially liked to help those who were creative. Many aspiring writers and artists looked to him for encouragement and assistance. Allen was an educator, writer, historian, and critic. He wrote many books and articles that helped people understand the contributions made by Black Americans to American culture. In 1907, he became the first Black person selected as a Rhodes Scholar. The Rhodes Scholarship is awarded to only a few outstanding students each year. Allen was one of the leaders of the Harlem Renaissance during the 1920s and 30s. At first, people recognized only Black writers. Allen helped make them aware of Black artists and musicians too. For 36 years, he taught at Howard University. Allen was one of America's brightest scholars. And that's him, Alan Locke. He's our hero. We have many heroes. Too many to count. Had we known of our heroes and sheroes growing up, oh, I am positive today would be very much different. Now, I didn't get this far in my videos with Marshall, Thurgood Marshall. Who is this? And Willie Mays. No, I didn't get this far with the videos, but we will continue on. Thurgood Marshall. And he was born in 1908 in New Haven, Connecticut. Supreme Court Justice. He was the first. Thurgood Marshall always cared about his fellow man. When he practiced law in Baltimore, Maryland, he represented many clients without getting paid. Thurgood graduated with honors from Howard University Law School. In 1940, he was named Chief Counsel for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. During his years with the NAACP, Thurgood and his staff won 29 out of 32 Supreme Court cases. That's all but 3. His most famous victory came in the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas case. Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas case. This historic decision overturned the separate but equal doctrine that had justified segregation since 1896. This historic decision overturned the separate but equal doctrine that had justified segregation since 1896. In 1965, Thurgood was appointed Solicitor General of the United States. When a vacancy occurred in the Supreme Court, President Lyndon Johnson nominated him for the seat. In 1967, this great jurist became the first Black justice of the United States Supreme Court. Thurgood Marshall has dedicated his life to protecting the rights of all Americans. And again, that's a picture of him there. Oh, and here we have Willie Mays, 1931, and he was born in Westfield, Alabama. That's a picture of Willie Mays. Say hey. Willie ran fast. He hit like a champ. He slugged 660 home runs. For over 20 years, this great player proved he could do it all. He was one of the most exciting men to ever play professional baseball. Willie started his career in the Negro Leagues. At that time, Black players were not allowed to play with white players in Major League Baseball, so they formed their own leagues. And we got a Black Negro League book. Yeah. The New York Giants bought Willie's contract from the Birmingham Black Barons in 1950. The Giants sent him to a minor league team to gain more experience. But Willie played so well, the Giants invited him to just join their team. He became a popular star. Willie usually greeted people by saying, "Say hey." He became known as the "Say Hey Kid." After a long, successful career with the Giants and the New York Mets, Willie was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1979. Look, Willie Mays. Willie Mays. Say hey. Oh, this is Constance Baker Motley. Or is it Motley? Constance Baker Motley. And she's born in 1921 in New Haven, Connecticut. Woman of distinction. Look. That's her. Hello. Yeah, that's her. Constance Baker Motley. Constance was born in the small state of Connecticut, but the legal battles she won made a big difference in the lives of her people. As a lawyer, Constance fought many important civil rights battles. One of her most famous victories gave James Meredith the right to become a student at the University of Mississippi. One of her most famous victories gave James Meredith the right to become a student at the University of Mississippi. During the 1950s, it was against the law for Black and white students in the South to attend college together. And my mother was born in 1952, but this says during the 1950s. Constance fought for James Meredith's right to attend the school of his choice. Her victory struck an important blow against segregation in Southern universities. In 1965, Constance was elected Manhattan Borough President in New York City. Borough, Borough. I think I used to say Borough, but Borough. She was the first Black person and first woman to hold that powerful office. In 1966, President Lyndon Johnson appointed her a United States District Judge. Constance Baker Motley has proven that the courts and the law are powerful weapons in the fight for justice. Look, will we come along with all these sellouts? I don't know. Yep. The greed and the fear of being threadbare, I guess. Hunt for that pillow, that lap of luxury. Now we have Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, 1909 to 1972. And he was born in Ghana, West Africa. Africa must unite. And this is a picture of him, Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah, that's his name. And it says Africa must unite. The African continent once had many strong and powerful nations, but in the 15th century, Dutch, French, and other Europeans took over many African countries. For over 400 years, Africans were forced to live under foreign rule. Throughout Africa, people were denied rights as citizens in their own land. Kwame Nkrumah spent most of his life fighting to bring independence to his country. Born in the western province of the Gold Coast, Kwame was educated in the United States and England. He was active in organizations that fought for reform in his country. He became prime minister in 1952. In 1957, the Gold Coast became the first Black nation in Africa to regain its independence. Ghana was chosen as its official name. Kwame Nkrumah became president in 1960. Other African nations looked to Nkrumah for guidance in their struggle for independence. They knew he believed Africa must unite. And that's so true today. Kwame Nkrumah. Oh, and then we have Jesse Owens. I don't know if we have Jesse Owens' book. I know we had his movie, but I don't even have the device to watch the movies anymore. Jesse Owens, 1913 to 1980. But we can always watch it on YouTube. A lot of stuff is not on YouTube anymore unless you buy it. And I think I only have one movie that I bought that's on YouTube, and that's Ruby Bridges. Yeah, but one of y'all got them where you can go find it and we can watch it like that, like so. This is class. Jesse Owens, 1913 to 1980, and he was born in Danville, Alabama. A blaze of glory. That's how fast he ran. A blaze of glory, like phew. The 1936 Olympic Games that were held in Nazi Germany were about more than just sports. Adolf Hitler, the Nazi leader, said that Germans were a master race. Many Germans believed him. They thought that Germany should rule the world. Hitler and his followers were sure that the Olympic Games would prove they were right. But Jesse Owens had other ideas. Jesse came from a poor Black family. He worked very hard in school and won a scholarship to Ohio State University. In college, he became a track star. In 1936, Jesse showed the world that he was a great athlete. In a blaze of glory, he won 3 gold medals in the broad jump, the 100-meter dash, and the 200-meter dash. And his speed helped his team win a gold medal in the 440-meter relay. Jesse changed history by setting new world records. Adolf Hitler was furious. A Black man had embarrassed him before the world. Jesse proved that people are winners because of their talent, not because of their color or nationality. And that's Jesse right there. That's Jesse. Yep, Jesse Owens. Mm-hmm. Preston. Ooh, we're moving right along. Rosa Parks. Rosa was born in 1913 in Tuskegee, Alabama, known as Mother of the Movement. And that's a photo of Rosa Parks. I don't know who can. Yeah, that's a photo of Rosa Parks. Rosa's feet ached as she walked to the Cleveland Avenue bus stop. It was 1955 in Montgomery, Alabama. People were rushing home after a hard day of work. When the bus arrived, all seats were quickly taken. Some people had to stand. Black people could only sit in the back of the bus. The front section was reserved for whites. Although Rosa sat in the section reserved for Black people, the bus driver ordered her and 3 other Black people to give their seats to white people. Rosa refused, and she was arrested. Rosa's refusal to give up her seat helped to start a movement against segregation. The leader of that movement was a young minister named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Her actions that afternoon in Montgomery guaranteed her a place in history. Rosa Parks often worked 2 jobs to help support her family. She always found time, however, to make Montgomery a better city for her people. She was an active member of the local NAACP. Rosa Parks still fights to make America a better land. She is an administrative assistant to United States Representative John Conyers in Detroit, Michigan. And that's Conyers. And this book was published many years ago. She hadn't passed a lot of these, our heroes had not passed at the publishing of this book. Okay, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Adam Clayton Jr. Powell. He was born in 1908 and he died in 1972, the year I was born. And he was born in New Haven, Connecticut. Wow. Constance Baker Motley was born in New Haven, Connecticut. And I thought it was someone else. Wow. Keep the faith. Adam was a child when he first learned the power of words. It was a lesson he never forgot. His father, Adam Clayton Powell Sr., was an important minister in Harlem, the largest Black community in the United States. He often spoke about the injustices that many Black Americans faced. When Adam grew up, he decided to become a minister just like his father had been. He was chosen to become pastor of his father's church, the Obsidian Baptist Church. Yeah, Obsidian. And that's Abyssianian. Obsidian. Abyssian. Obsidian. Yeah. Baptist Church. That's why I spelled it for you. Adam knew that the injustices he fought against in New York City could be found elsewhere in America. So he decided to run for Congress and fight for justice for all Americans. He won his first election in 1944. Adam accomplished many things in Congress. He helped to raise the minimum wage and was one of the strongest supporters of education. He fought to keep the government from spending money for projects that discriminated against Black people. Adam became chairman of the very important House Committee on Education and Labor in 1961. In 1967, Adam was accused of misusing public funds. He was stripped of his seat in Congress, but the man who had urged Black Americans to keep the faith did not give up. The people of Harlem elected him again in 1969, and public pressure helped him get back his seat. And this is him right here, because we, the people, his people, wanted him back. And I'm pretty sure at that time right then, Black people knew that he was ousted for being the champion of the underdog, of the Black man. And something that stands out to me is that a lot of our heroes that we are reading about, although we know they were fighting for our people collectively, the writings have it phrased where they were fighting for all. And that's possibly how they were able to get into those creeks and crevices to make these laws, to pass these laws for civil rights and other rights that were stripped from us, that we weren't able to benefit. Benjamin Quarles, and that's Quarles. And this is a picture of Benjamin Quarles. You can see it there. Benjamin Quarles, Quarles, like Charles, but it's Quarles with a Q. And he's known as great historian. Benjamin Quarles. To prove that he was not a slave, a free Negro had to carry around with him a certificate of freedom, numbered, registered, and issued by the courts. These free papers gave the name, stature, and complexion of the Negro and indicated how his freedom had been obtained. Free papers had to be renewed periodically, for which a fee was assessed. From the Negro in the Making of America. Get the book. I don't have that book. We get the book, and it's in that book there. From the Negro in the Making of America. Ooh. Exceptional people. Now, do we see why Black America is an exceptional people? The exceptional people. Stay on track. When Benjamin was growing up in Boston, Massachusetts, there were few books about Black history. So when he became a man, he decided to write books that told about the many important contributions that Black people had made to American society. In his research, Benjamin found that Black people had played important roles in American history. He also found that most books did not include their achievements. He knew it was up to him to fill in the missing facts. Benjamin wrote about how Black people fought for victory in the Revolutionary and the Civil Wars. He also wrote about Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. The historical research done by Benjamin and other Black historians has helped all Americans appreciate Black contributions and envy. Benjamin received many awards for his achievements. He was a professor at Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, until he retired. And that's him right there. Benjamin. It's because of Benjamin Quarles that we have the many texts available to us today that we are afraid to use. And it is because of him recognizing that we needed our story told. He's the beginning, a great historian. And next we have Paul Robeson. This Paul Robeson right here. I've heard the name. Yeah, I think when I was reading about Harper's Ferry, maybe, and it was talking about a couple of heroes. But yeah, that name sticks with me. And I don't know why I was thinking Lucy Parsons. Yeah, he was born in 1898 and he died in 1976. He was born in Princeton, New Jersey. A man for all seasons. Okay. And I believe these are true photos of everyone. These are true photos. As Paul Robeson walked to the stage, the audience rose to its feet with applause. It was their way of saying, "Welcome home, we love you." The year was 1963. Paul had recently returned to the United States after living in Europe for 5 years. These people had come to show how much they appreciated him. Paul was a singer, actor, scholar, lawyer, humanitarian, and athlete. He spoke several languages. There weren't many things he couldn't do. He graduated from Rutgers University with honors and was selected as an All-American football player. His acting career began in 1921 at the Harlem YMCA. A year later, his talent was recognized in the play Emperor Jones. In a few years, Paul was known around the world as a great singer and actor. His rich baritone voice brought joy to millions. Because of his fame, Paul knew many people would listen to him. So he spoke out against the racism and injustice he saw in America and the world. Some people tried to silence him. In 1950, the United States government took away his passport. He couldn't perform in other countries, and concert halls in America were closed to him. He was unable to earn a living doing what he loved most. But Paul still spoke out. When the government was forced to give back his passport in 1958, he went to England. He couldn't return until 1963. Despite the many attempts to discredit him, people around the world continued to love and respect Paul Robeson. He will always be remembered as a person who made great sacrifices to help his fellow man. Look. Paul Robeson. And then we have Wilma Rudolph. And she was born in 1940 in Clarksville, Tennessee. Yep, Clarksville, Tennessee. A golden track star. And this is a picture of Wilma right here with her medals. Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, with her medals. Wilma never liked to lose. She always tried very hard to be a winner, and her determined spirit usually led to success. When Wilma was a child, she had to wear a brace on her left leg. She had been crippled by polio, but she was determined to walk without her brace. Soon, she learned to walk and run without it. In high school, Wilma won many races. She was also a star basketball player. In 1956, she scored 803 points during one season. Tennessee State University gave her a scholarship so she could run on their track team. While competing in the 1960 Olympic Games held in Rome, Wilma became the first woman to win 3 Olympic medals in track. She was recognized as the world's fastest woman runner. In 1960, the Associated Press voted her Female Athlete of the Year. Wilma Rudolph's winning spirit still inspires athletes today. Wow, look at there. Look, Wilma Rudolph. And she can run fast. Yeah. Wow, Wilma Rudolph. Ooh, Bessie Smith. Bessie Smith. She was born in 1894 in Chattanooga, Tennessee to 1937. Chattanooga, Tennessee. She was born in Chattanooga. Empress of the Blues. And Bessie's known as the Emperor of the Blues. Can you see Bessie? When Bessie was young, Ma Rainey, the movie on Netflix, the first of the great blues singers, took her under her wing and helped her find a job. Blues is very special music, and not everyone can sing it well. Ma Rainey knew a good blues singer when she heard one. She was sure that the young singer would become great. Bessie sang about things in life that give people the blues, like poverty and racism and love that is not returned. Her strong, beautiful voice was so powerful, she didn't even need a microphone. Her songs captured the sadness and joy of many Black Americans. Bessie sang in many clubs and small Southern theaters. In 1923, she went to New York City to make her first record. Many recordings followed. Downhearted Blues sold more than 2 million copies. Many people who heard Bessie sing believe that the Empress was one of the greatest blues singers who ever lived. And look, that's her. Ooh, wee. Yeah, we're gonna have to watch some video clips. We'll just take some time and go live and watch some of the videos of our heroes and our sheroes. Oh, but yeah, there is a movie. I believe it's on Netflix and maybe Tubi TV, one of them. But it's Ma Rainey, and it's been maybe a year or so that I think I saw it on one of them. But you can look it up, and that's M-A and R-A-I-N-E-Y. Ma Rainey, 2 words. R-A-I-N-E-Y. All right, William Grant Steele. And he was born in 1895 to 1978. And he was born in Woodville, Mississippi. The Dean of Black Composers. And that's him right there. William Grant Steele. William loved music. He could create songs, but he wanted others to be able to play and enjoy them. He knew he must learn how to write down his music. For many years, some people thought that Black musicians could not play serious music. They believed that music by Black composers was not important enough to write down. William knew they was wrong. He attended the Oberlin Conservatory of Music and the New England Conservatory of Music. He studied very hard and learned how to compose. He created symphonies, operas, ballet music, and musical poems. William successfully combined Black and European musical traditions. Wow. So for them thinking that Black composers was not important and they couldn't play serious music, he combined Black and European musical traditions. His beautiful compositions were enjoyed by many people. William was determined to show that Black conductors could lead orchestras as well as white conductors. In 1936, he became the first Black person to conduct a major orchestra in the United States. He led the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra in a performance of one of his own compositions. And that's PHILHARMONIC. Philharmonic Orchestra. And that's him right there. William Grant Steele. You see it? See his picture there? Oh, here we have Sojourner Truth. And you know, well, I'm going to go ahead and share this little story here. On the other page, well, on this page, we have Sojourner Truth. And on the other page, we have Harriet Tubman. And it would be so hard for me, and it still is sometimes, to distinguish the two. I don't know if it's the power or what, but it's just so hard sometimes for me to distinguish the two if I see their photos without the literature to it. Mm-hmm. And the main photos that I ever see are the same photos that we see here. And as you can see, the clothing is different. You know, the coloring is different. The background is different. But yeah. I think it's because I didn't know them growing up. And so now, you know, I have to find ways. Oh, what's that in the background? That little statue in the background right there? Well, y'all can't see it, I don't think. That little statue, you see that little statue right there? My finger's pointing to it. Sojourner Truth. She was born in 1797 in Hurley, New York. Hurley, Hurley, New York. And she died in 1883. And she was known as Freedom's Messenger. Sojourner was born a slave and was named Isabella Baumfree. 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 New York, the state where she lived, outlawed slavery in 1827. But Sojourner's master didn't care. He would not free her. So she ran away. When Sojourner was 46 years old, she decided to start her own campaign against slavery. She could not stand to see her people suffer any longer. She changed her name to Sojourner Truth. She chose that name because she planned to travel from place to place to tell the truth about slavery. Sojourner carried her anti-slavery message throughout the North. She spoke to anyone who would listen and to those who wouldn't listen too. She was a great speaker. Some people compared her to Frederick Douglass. Sojourner was often beaten for speaking out against slavery. But this brave woman could not be stopped. She had a mission. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation that outlawed slavery. But the southern states did not recognize the law until they were defeated. After the Civil War, Sojourner fought for Black equality and women's rights. She dedicated her life to opening the doors of freedom for all people. For all people. And see, that's what I really want to stress right now. Today, as we look around us and we see every freedom and every comfortable pillow and lap of luxury that everybody is enjoying, it's because we as a people fought for it for everybody. But we didn't get a lap of luxury. We did not get a pillow. You see, we've always fought for everybody. And even in the fight for ourselves and our people to be free, let them go, we still fought for everybody else. And today, if it is 2024, soon to be 2025, allegedly, who's fighting for Black people? Black America. Because we've always, and I've heard that before. Yeah, I didn't doubt it. I didn't doubt that we've always fought for everyone else too. And here we hear right here. And we hear it right here. We read it in black and white. It's in these books. How black people, in the midst of our own misery and madness and our own persons and loved ones being maimed and murdered and skinned alive and roasted and lynched, and still we fight for everyone else. Shouldn't societies have fought for us, for black people too? I know John Brown did. What's the other man? I know Charles Sumner, if he was the white man that was mentioned. I know they did. It was a few. It was a few in between. But that don't mean that them as a whole have fought for us or that they will fight for us. Ain't been another John Brown. If it is, we'll find out about him. Next, there's Harriet Tubman. And she was born in 1820 to 1913. She was born in Dorchester County, Maryland. And that was D-O-R, C-H-E-S-T-E-R. Take you a break because I'm going to take me one. Just 2 or 3 minutes. Get your tea. Harriet Tubman was known as Black Moses. And this here's a picture of Harriet. This picture of Harriet. Harriet Tubman. The small band of runaway slaves hid behind trees. They huddled together to hide from the cruel slave catchers. Would the runaways be caught and taken back to slavery? Or would they escape to freedom in the North? Not a sound from anyone, a voice warned. It was Harriet Tubman. She knew the risk and dangers they all faced. This trip to lead slaves from the South was not her first. Soon the slave catchers were gone. The group of runaway slaves traveled through the dark woods and escaped to the north. Black Moses had struck again. Harriet Tubman led more than 300 slaves to freedom. Although Harriet had escaped from slavery, she made many dangerous trips back to help others find the road to freedom. She used an established route called the Underground Railroad. Along this route, friends and supporters provided safe hiding places, food, and clothing for the runaway slaves. Angry slave masters offered huge rewards for Harriet's capture, but she managed to fool them again and again. As a conductor on the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman never lost a passenger. Because she told him she'll shoot you, I'll shoot you dead before I let you go back. Because she knew once them slaves went back to that plantation, they was going to torture you and maim you until you told exactly where the rest of them was at. Yep. So she never lost a passenger. Leslie Uggams Leslie Uggams, Uggams. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Let's say Uggams. Leslie Uggams. And she was born in 1943 in New York, New York. A young star. Look here. Leslie sang almost from the time she could talk. When she was 6 years old, Leslie made her singing debut. A short while later, she appeared in the television series Beulah, starring Ethel Waters. In 1961, Leslie became a cast member on the popular program Sing Along with Mitch. In a short time, her charming voice and perky style attracted fans everywhere. She was a star at only 18 years old. For several years, she was the only Black entertainer to be seen regularly on television. Leslie's parents were also entertainers. Her father was a singer, and her mother had performed as a chorus girl at Harlem's famous Cotton Club. Leslie is not only a singer, but also an actress. She starred in the award-winning television movie Roots. That's what she was Kizzy, which was based upon the book of the same name, the book Roots. This story details the history of a Black family from its beginning in Africa to present-day America. She is still performing today. She was Kizzy, y'all, in the movie Roots. Yep, Roots was my favorite book when I was a little girl. Yep, I don't know what happened to that book, but that was my favorite book. That's why I kept looking, because I was like, she looks so familiar. Denmark Vesey. Denmark Vesey. He was born in 1767 and he died in 1822. He was born in Haiti. And this is a photo. And that would be Denmark there, I suppose. Denmark Vesey. Lover of freedom. This right here says the slaves plan a revolt. We see them all getting together here. It looked like Denmark is letting them know which way they were going to go. But we see the other brothers and stuff they were planning. Denmark Vesey stared out at the angry crowd of whites who were waiting to see him hanged. Oh, Denmark Vesey stared out at the angry white. Ooh. Denmark Vesey stared out at the angry crowd of whites who were waiting to see him hanged. But he was not afraid. It didn't matter what they thought. He was willing to die for freedom. It was summer in Charleston, South Carolina, the city where Denmark lived. Slavery was an important part of life in America. Although Denmark had bought his freedom with money he won in a lottery, he could not buy his children's freedom. Denmark became a dedicated fighter against slavery. He believed Black people were being held illegally. To free slaves in the Charleston area, he planned an uprising. He recruited allies and drew up a battle plan. He planned to take over the city on the second Sunday in July of 1822. But his plan was discovered. Denmark and some of his followers were arrested and sentenced to be hanged. Although he did not succeed, Denmark's efforts focused attention on the struggle to end slavery. It was quiet now. The crowd moved away. The man who just wanted to see his people free was dead. it seems strange that 2 days later, on July the 4th, the country celebrated its own freedom. So see, that's why we had a controversy. And when Frederick Douglass was talking about the 4th of July, we wasn't celebrating the 4th of July, y'all. I didn't know these things either. But now I bet you there isn't a footprint on this in this country that isn't saturated with blood. No matter where we step, no matter what country, what county we're in, what little hick town we're in, south or north. I don't imagine there's much land where people have lived, our people have lived and traveled, that isn't saturated with blood. And the roots carry it. Yeah. We got to open our minds and start thinking. Okay, next we have Booker T. Washington. And he was born in 1856 to 1915 in Franklin County, Virginia. Look at Booker. Look at Booker T. Washington. These are our heroes. Booker T. Washington. Yeah. A great leader. Booker was a small boy when slavery ended. He worked in the salt mines of West Virginia from 4 in the morning until late at night to earn enough money for food. Booker was convinced that education was the key to success. He was determined to learn. He studied by the light of the fire each night after he came home from work. When he was 15, Booker left home and entered Hampton Institute. He cleaned buildings and classrooms to pay his college tuition. He wanted to become a teacher, but more important things lay ahead. In 1881, Booker T. Washington was chosen to head a newly established school for Black students called Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute. And again, that's the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute. There were 2 small wooden buildings and 30 students when he arrived. Under his leadership, Tuskegee grew and became an important school for Black students. Under him, Tuskegee grew and became an important school for Black students. Booker became a leader of his people too. He believed that Black Americans should learn trades to build up their economic position. He felt this should be done even before fighting for integration and equality. Some people disagreed with him, especially William E.B. Du Bois. But Booker continued to fight in his own way for equality. Booker T. Washington was born in a slave cabin, but he became one of the most powerful Black Americans of his time. And I, too, I agree with Booker, that Black people should be building up our economic position even before fighting for integration and equality. Yes, I do. And I still do. Oh, next we have Ethel Waters, 1896. She was born in 1896 to 1977. And she was born in Chester, Pennsylvania. And this is a picture of Esther Waters. Yeah. Didn't they mention her name when we was reading about Bessie? Yeah. No, it wasn't Bessie. Who was? We was reading about someone and they mentioned her name. It would be so awesome if I was just really organized and taking notes. And we will get there. This is trial by error, but we're doing it, baby. We're reading. When Ethel was a little girl, her family was so poor she had to steal food to eat. When she was 13, she worked as a maid for less than $5 a day. But Ethel never lost hope. She was sure that someday her life would change. She knew that she was talented and she believed in herself. Ethel had a beautiful voice. She could sing jazz songs and the blues. Her singing style made ordinary songs sound very special. Many people came to hear her sing, and she became famous. But she wanted to do more. She began to act in plays and movies. People who thought she was a beautiful singer, people who thought she was a great singer, now knew that she was a great actress too. Ethel's beautiful voice and dramatic talent established her as one of the most important actresses of her time. In 1950, she won the New York Drama Critics Award for her performance in the Broadway play, A Member of the Wedding. And that was in 1950, 2 years before my mama was born. And that's Ethel Waters. That's her again. That's another picture. It's a picture. Just another viewing. Ethel Waters. How good means that. Ooh, look at Ida B. Wells. That's Ida B. Wells. Ida Barnett Wells. Yeah. And she was born, Ida B. Wells was born in 1869, and she died in 1931. She was born in Holly Springs, Mississippi. A warrior with words. That's her, Ida B. Wells. That's beautiful. Look at her. Look at Ida. Ida B. Wells' parents were strong people who were born slaves. By their example, they taught Ida courage and strength. They also taught her how to love freedom as much as they did. When she was 14, her parents died of yellow fever. After their death, Ida worked as a teacher and raised her 7 brothers and sisters by herself. She never forgot her parents' lessons. During the 19th century, Black people suffered many injustices. Many Black families had their land stolen. Many Black people were murdered. Many Black men were hanged for crimes they didn't commit. Ida was very angry about these cruelties and decided to do something about them. She knew that words could be strong weapons, so she fought with words. Ida wrote about the many injustices she saw. She made people aware of how Black people were suffering. In 1894, she published The Red Record, the first book to document the lynching of Black Americans. She was also a founder of the NAACP. Ida became known in the United States and throughout the world as a fighter for justice. We want to get that, The Red Record. In 1894, we want to get her book. Ida B. Wells. Moving along. Ooh, y'all, we on W. And I did not, since I ended up clicking off of YouTube, I did not go back in to try to share any videos and stuff. We'll make another live for that. Phyllis Wheatley. She's born in 1753 and she died in 1784. And Phyllis was born in Senegal, West Africa. And she's known as a poet for her times. A poet for her times. Phyllis Wheatley, Negro servant to Mr. John Wheatley of Boston. And see, that says that around the border of the picture, around the border. That's what it says. A poet of her times. The goddess comes. She moves divinely fair. Olive and laurel binds her golden hair. Wherever shines this native of the skies, unnumbered charms and recent graces rise. And that's from To His Excellency, To His Excellency General Washington. So that must be one of her poems. To His Excellency General Washington. Phyllis was very young when she was stolen from her parents and brought to America. She would never forget her parents, her African homeland, or her trip on the horrible slave ship. She was bought by the Wheatleys, a family of white merchants. As their slave, she had to do whatever they asked. But the Wheatleys soon realized that Phyllis was a very special child. They taught her how to read and write. By the time she was 14, she had written her first poem. Soon many people began to read her poetry. One of her poems, which was dedicated to George Washington, brought her much attention. In 1773, Phyllis published a collection of poems entitled Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral. Phyllis Wheatley was only 31 years old when she died, but she will be remembered as one of America's first Black poets. Phyllis Wheatley. I think we got her book. We have a book, Phyllis Wheatley. Where are my glasses at? I do believe I saw a book of Phyllis Wheatley. Was it over here or over there? Yep, I think it was over there, but I did see a book with her name on it. It wasn't a very big book, I don't think. Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, we will be having quite a few, reading sessions and such. But yeah, we only have 2 more in this one here to finish. But yeah, I think we do have that. We do have something on Phyllis. I'm not sure which of her books it is, but we will find it. I will find it. And I'll put it over on that one there, on that shelf where we're going to be reading. Next, we have Malcolm X, my brother. And Malcolm was born in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, and he died in 1965. And that's a picture right there. Fighter for freedom. And he was born in Omaha, Nebraska. No one expressed the anger that many Black Americans felt during the 1950s and 1960s more vividly than Malcolm X. He lashed out at society's unfair treatment of his people and warned America that Black people would no longer accept racial injustice. Born Malcolm Little, he was only 6 years old when his father was killed. His mother had a nervous breakdown several years later, and Malcolm was sent to live in a foster home. Malcolm had trouble adjusting to life without his family. Although he was a good student, he dropped out of school at 15. Before he was 21, he was sent to prison for burglary. In prison, Malcolm discovered a religious group called the Nation of Islam. This organization of Black Muslims helped him find a new purpose in life. Malcolm Little became Malcolm X, the leading spokesman for the Nation of Islam. He established his national newspaper and helped to organize bakeries and stores. Many Black Americans looked to Malcolm as their leader. Malcolm left the Nation of Islam in 1963 and formed the Organization of Afro-American Unity. Following a trip to Mecca, he changed his name to El-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. His fight for freedom continued. On February 21st, 1965, Malcolm was killed by assassins. But he had already made his mark in the struggle for justice for Black Americans. That's Malcolm. All right, next we have Whitney M. Young Jr. Whitney M. Young Jr. And he was born in 1921. He was born in 1921 in Lincoln Ridge, Kentucky. And he died in 1971, a year before I was born. He's known as a dynamic leader. And this is a picture of Whitney M. Young Jr. Yeah, he was born in Kentucky. Lincoln Ridge, Kentucky. It has become necessary for me to face realistically the true state of America's development as it seeks to make operational and give honest meaning to its creed of equal opportunity and justice for all. And that's from To Be Equal. The 1960s were a time of change. Many Black people fought for civil rights and equality. William Young Jr. was a strong leader who worked hard to make a better life for his people. At first, Whitney wanted to become a doctor, but he saw many problems in the world that bothered him. He decided that he could do more to help people by becoming a social worker. Eventually, he became the dean of Atlanta University's School of Social Work. In 1961, Whitney was appointed head of the National Urban League. He knew that there were many rich people in the United States could give help to the poor people. He worked to find ways for them to contribute. Whitney convinced many corporations and foundations to sponsor self-help programs that would help guide Black people toward jobs, education, and housing. Through his leadership, many people were given the help they needed to build themselves a better life. Wasn't that marvelous? What a sacrifice. He wanted to become a doctor initially, but then to help his people, he realized he could help his people more by becoming a social worker. But I bet you everything he did with his hands, I bet you everything flourished. And last but not least, we made it. Shaka Zulu. Ooh, and that's Shaka Zulu right there. That's a picture of Shaka Zulu. We made it to the end of this workbook, this book. Shaka Zulu was born in 1787. Shaka Zulu was born in 1787, and he died in 1828. Shaka was born in South Africa, and he's known as a great general. Oh, one of my favorite movies of all time is Shaka Zulu. Yeah. His mother, Nandi, one of my favorite queens in Africa. Yeah, Queen Nandi, Nandi, Queen Nandi. The mere mention of Shaka's name made his enemies tremble with fear. He was one of the greatest African generals who ever lived. His army was one of the most fearless in the world. Shaka was born a Zulu prince, but his father would not claim him as his son. He and his mother, Nandi, wandered from village to village trying to find a home. People called Shaka's mother names, and children threw stones at him. But these hard times made Shaka strong. He had been told that he was destined to rule the Zulus, and he never forgot it. The Metwa, Metwa, the Metwa, powerful rivals of the Zulus, they accepted Shaka and his mother into their clan. Shaka became a great warrior. In the early 1800s, the king of Metwa ordered Shaka to conquer the Zulus, his daddy's people. Shaka was pleased. Now was his chance to claim his birthright. He conquered the Zulus and became their leader. Shaka organized his army into a powerful force that conquered many other clans. He used new military techniques and weapons. Under his leadership, the Zulus became the most powerful nation in southern Africa. Shaka remains a hero to the Zulu nation today. And that's Shaka. Shaka Zulu. Oh, this has been so wonderful, and we thank you for your patience. We thank you so much for your patience, and we hope that you really enjoyed the book, the reading, our heroes, our sheroes. And this is just the beginning. We have more to do. It's not all that we think it is, depressing, and we don't have time for it. There's no benefit to it. See, all of those myths are only lies to deter us from learning and teaching our children how magical, how exceptional, powerful, strong, and courageous. Do you know how creative we are? Can you imagine us not being? Can you imagine us not surviving? This whole world, this country itself, is because of us. I truly believe that the sun rises and sets on Black people. Yes, if Black people were no more, as hard and as much as our open enemies are striving to eliminate and eradicate Black people, that will be the day that humanity and mankind ends. There will be no more life on planet Earth, save the animal kingdom and the sea life. That's it, and that's all. But yes, we did enjoy this, and hopefully we will see you tonight at 12 a.m., Midnight with the Ancestors. So we'll see you later. Get some rest, okay? Hopefully you'll read next.